Welcome to another HVAC Insider Series brought to you by Breezy. I'm your host, as always, CJ Todd. I'm really excited, my friends, for our chat today to help you guys learn a little bit more about how to effectively price your maintenance and installs. I noticed there was a lot of 1 to 3 man shops on the call today, so this is going to be especially effective for you. So make sure you really engage today. I want to take a quick minute to introduce you guys to Breezy and kind of what we're doing in the industry. A little bit about our software. Breezy automates processes and helps you present perfect pricing every time, so you can focus all your energy on delivering an exceptional customer service experience for your homeowners. And our mission with the HVAC Insider Series is to bring you the most trusted and acclaimed industry experts that can give you actionable insights into growing a profitable business. We do that 3 times a month, and it's absolutely free. There is no obligation to be a Breezy customer to tune in to get all that amazing value. So whether you're looking to boost your sales, improve your operations, or learn the strategies for effective pricing like we're going to do today, Breezy and the HVAC Insider Series have you covered. I'm really excited to introduce our guest today, Michael James Johnson. Michael is a U.S. Air Force veteran and a 7-figure HVAC business owner, one of the most trusted coaches in our industry, guys. What I admire most about Michael is that he brings his military discipline to real-world HVAC experience, combining those two things, which you don't get every day. His coaching empowers owners to push past their comfort zones, grow their profits, and create businesses that deliver real impact. And I'm really excited to welcome him back onto the show. He always brings an incredible amount of insight and really helps you reshape the way you run your business. So before I get started, you'll notice there's a couple of QR codes on the screen right now. On the left, Michael's Facebook group, HVAC Business Owners and Contractors. This is a community of over 50,000 contracting business owners, general managers, techs, all kinds of people in the industry, including myself. And Michael mentors this group, and everybody helps each other grow every single day. So scan that QR code, join the group. I'll drop a link in the chat as well. You'll also see a QR code to schedule a free 30-minute consultation with Michael. In this session, you're going to get one-on-one help with your pricing, but you're also going to walk away with an exclusive pricing tool, something that Michael typically charges $300 for. You're going to get that absolutely free. So don't miss out on either of those resources. Scan those QR codes, and I'll drop the link in the chat as well. So without further ado, you guys, let's jump in and welcome Michael onto the show. Michael, thanks for joining us today, man.
All right, no problem. It's always fun. So let's talk about this. So today we are talking about pricing, right? And pricing is one of those things I really love it. If you watch any of my videos, if you're in the Facebook group, you'll notice that I talk about it all the time. And I'm going to tell you why I talk about it all the time is because pricing changed my life. So I started my HVAC company 20 years ago, and I didn't have a rich uncle or a business coach or someone to really kind of teach me these things. So I was undercharging. And when I went out to try to find out how to price, nobody knew how to do it, right? And I see in Facebook groups and in contractor groups and meetings, it's one of the most mystifying things. And people ask, how much do I charge for this? How much do I charge for this? And everyone has their own formula, but there's a big problem with that, because that's like asking, how much is rent? Okay, I can ask CJ, hey, how much is rent? He can't answer that because it depends on what size house he's renting. It depends on where he lives. Pricing is the same thing. Pricing is not based on what CJ charges or what the competition charges. Pricing is based on specific things, and there is a solid way to do that. And because I struggled so long, and it took me so many years to figure it out, I really became passionate about it, okay? So my quick story in a nutshell is I was undercharging for many, many years. And when I finally figured it out, it changed my business completely. But it comes with a lot of mental things that are going on. So let's talk about that first, because that is very important. Now, when I imagine someone trying to figure out what their prices are, I imagine, the contractor, he's sitting there and he's looking up into the sky and he's trying to figure out pricing. And it's like a big math problem. And it's like trying to figure out the entire universe, okay? Because it's so difficult. And we just sit there and we get overwhelmed and we get frustrated. But figuring out pricing is not something that's nebulous. It doesn't have to be confusing. You don't have to always ask what this price should be and what this price should be, because it's a very simple formula. Okay, and that's what we're going to get into today. So I want to take you from this grand confusion into like boom, to where you not only know your correct pricing, but you can do it every time very quickly. But there's a couple things that we have to get past in pricing. And this is what I call FOPO, which is fear, overwhelm, procrastination, and overthinking. All right, why is that important? I'm going to tell you why that's important. Is because pricing is related to money. And anything related to money, we are very closely connected to emotionally, right? We all have our emotional connections to money. And when we start talking about pricing, it unlocks a lot of emotions, right? So you may be saying, well, I'm not scared to price, or I'm not feeling overwhelmed, or I'm not procrastinating, or I'm not overthinking. Well, these things take shape in many different forms. And most of the time when we talk about pricing, once I get into the formula, which I'm getting ready to get into in a minute, you start to hear yourself saying, well, that's not going to work in my town, or man, I'm no longer going to win any jobs because that price is too high, or people are going to get mad at me and they're going to curse me out and kick me out, or I don't want to be one of those white shirt companies that's just sales, sales, sales. People will think I'm a thief. I'll lose my customer base. You know what that is? That is fear, overwhelm, procrastination, overthinking. So put in the chat if that resonates with you. If you deal with any one of those four things, put it in there, right? So for me, it was procrastination, fear, right? So for me, fear was, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose all my customers, okay? Which led to procrastination, right? So procrastination, because I was fearful, I always put it in the I'm going to mode. Oh, I know I need to change my prices, so I'm going to figure that out. I'm going to do that later. And it was based on fear. So somebody says definitely overthinking. Travis says I used to have all of them. Yeah, I think I have all of them. I fight them every day. So when I get into the pricing, I want that to be on the top of your mind. When I start shifting your prices here, when you bring out your pen and you start doing your calculator, I want you to know that fear, overwhelm, procrastination, or overthinking is going to try to shoot these ideas down, right? I want you to know that. I want you to capture that thought, and I want you to bind it and throw it away. I call it head trash, okay? Trash belongs in the trash can, not in your head. And FOPO is all trash, all right? So let's talk about this, okay? Now, a lot of these limiting beliefs that I just mentioned, they go like this. I've heard them 1,000 times. I've been consulting for many years. I've consulted companies that are $10 million. I've consulted companies that are just started up in that 200,000. And I usually get the same kind of comment. So these are the most common ones is, well, you don't know the people in my market. The people in your market might pay for that, but the people in my market don't. Okay. That is overthinking. Okay. That is fear, right? My competitors will just undercut me. That's another big one. Well, you don't know, I have a lot of unlicensed guys in my town. I got a lot of undercutters. And if I price this, then people will undercut me. A real quick thought on that is if your prices are too low, if you can think of a competitor in your town that's big, you're literally undercutting them, but they're still going every day. So I want you to think about that huge company in your town that has higher prices than you. Your prices have not stopped them, right? So when you charge the right price, the undercutter will not stop you. And we'll talk about that. I can't justify these prices. We're going to justify this just here in a minute. I'm going to make it crystal clear, right? Okay, so, and Johnny, you're exactly right. People out here, they underbid themselves to win jobs. And the temptation is to lower the prices to meet them, but you don't want to race them to see who can go out of business quicker. All right. It's not a race that you want to be a part of, right? And I've thought about it. I get fearful when my closing rate starts to go down, and my first thought is, well, I'm losing because of price. There's other ways to win those bids, okay? So, that is a perfect example of what I call the competitor trap, okay? What is the competitor trap? That is the idea that I have to win jobs based on price, okay? Most companies, and believe me, guys, I have done this. I have seen the books of large companies. I've seen the books of small companies. Most companies are underpricing themselves, right? So what happens if you go to a company that's underpricing themselves and you match their price to win the job? You just underpriced yourself, right? So we never want to look over and compare. What we want to do is charge the right price and then grow from there. And I want to pose something to you, right? Yeah. What do you think about your prices? Put them in the chat. We're going to do a poll right now. So put in the chat when the poll pops up. Do you think you are underpricing? Do you think you're overpricing? Do you think your prices are too high? Do you think they're too low? Or do you think they're right smack dab in the middle of exactly where they should be? So let's see. I'm curious to see where that goes. I know before I learned, my pricing was 100,000% too low. Okay. All right. So we got some people here. It's coming in live. We have right now about 55% of people saying they're pricing too low, with half of them saying it's right where they should be. Okay, that's really good. There's always going to be some of you out there that have it right on the money. Okay, and that's really, really good, which is why we're going to talk about how to price, and then we're going to talk about some psychology on how to continue to get that price so that we can meet all of you in the middle. And we have 4% that says their price is too high. I would be really interested to hear about that. So, all right, so very, very good. Let's take a look here. Okay. All right, so let's talk about basic pricing ideas, right? So we dealt with FOPO, fear, overwhelm, procrastination, overthinking, right? We all have that, okay? Most of us have some sort of idea on what pricing should be. If you have an idea of where the prices should be and it's not based on any type of math, because math is the path, if your pricing is just based on because you worked at another company, that's how much they charge for that, or you think that this is a fair price, well, it's a fair price for this is this. If that's where your pricing is and you've never actually done the math, I want you to throw that idea in the garbage. Okay, I want you to throw it in the garbage. There's no such thing as a fair price. There's only you paying the bills for your company and supporting your family. Okay, right? So we can charge what we think is a fair price. And what I mean by that, to clarify, is I may have an idea in my mind on what a fair price is based off of my culture, based off of how I grew up, based off of how I saw my mom and dad struggle. And then CJ has a different idea of what a fair price is. And I can poll everyone in the comments and say, what is a fair price? And it will be all over the map. Why? Because our emotions cannot dictate the price. Okay, so your pricing needs to be based on your numbers. So as I get into this, put into the chat, just write my pricing is based on my numbers, just put numbers. Or if you think your price was just emotional, put emotions. Okay, I'm curious to see that in the chat. Okay, so this is how this works in a nutshell. All right, so the way that I teach pricing, it comes from a thing called FRAP, which is a framework which grows a business very quickly, right? It's called frequency, referrals, average ticket, and price. Those are the four things that turn around a company really quickly. And the fastest thing is price. So that's what we're dealing with today, right? If you watch some of my videos, we get into some of the other stuff later. Okay. All right. Somebody said, oh, CJ said I'd be lying if I said there wasn't some emotionally. Okay. All right. So the first thing you have to do is you have to add all of your overhead cost together. Okay, that's where pricing starts. Believe it or not, pricing does not start with the service that you're providing. Pricing begins with the cost that it takes to provide that service. I'll give an example. Capacitors are the biggest pricing issue in our industry, right? Because us contractors say, well, it only takes me 5 minutes to change a contactor, and a contactor is only $12. But how much time did you take to drive to that homeowner's house? How much gas did it take? What about your insurance to be there? Okay, what about all of these other things? What about the flat tire that you got last week driving back and forth to places? Who's going to pay for that? So it's not the 5 minutes, it's your other costs. My insurance for my company, my insurance is $3,000 per month. Okay, what pays for that? The capacitor, the motor, all of that. Okay, so it starts with you adding your overhead costs up, right? And I just talked about something that wasn't overhead, so don't shoot the messenger here. Okay, first thing you have to do is add your overhead. What is overhead? Okay, let's look at overhead as something that you have to pay regardless if you're doing work or not. All right, so I have someone in the office that answers the phone and schedules jobs. I have to pay her. If we have no jobs, I have to pay her. She is an overhead cost. All right. My insurance, all of these things that you have to pay. By the way, if you're a one-man show, you're the only person in the company, you have a salary. Okay. So I want you to add all of that up. You don't have to do it now. Don't do it on this webinar because I want you to pay attention, because you start adding it up right now, then you're going to notice that you just skipped 15 minutes of talking. Okay. So just take notes. You'll have the recording later. So once you add your overhead costs, you're going to find a certain number. It may be $100,000. It may be $200,000. It all depends. All of you are different. Some of you live in California. I saw that. California costs are a lot different than North Carolina costs, which is why you don't go in Facebook groups and say how much to charge for this. Okay. So once you get to that number, let's say your overhead is $200,000 per year. You have to divide that by how many hours you have available to work. Okay, so let's say you have $200,000 of bills you have to spend a year. How many hours are available in a year to work? Okay, probably 2,000. Okay, so 40 hours a week for 4 weeks for 12 months is 2,000 hours, right? So if you divide that overhead by 2,000 hours, you're going to get a number. That number is going to be how much your company spends every hour of every day. And that's only break even. It doesn't have any profit. Okay. Now here's the problem with the number of hours. Okay. We don't have 2,000 hours available to work. You don't. If you work, or your technicians work for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, that's 40 hours a week, and they work for 4 weeks, right? And you multiply this times 12, that's 2,000. But remember, sometimes they're going to be at the supply house loading up the truck. Sometimes they're going to be on vacation. Sometimes they're going to be driving around, right? And an average technician driving around, Travis, you're 100% right, 50 to 55% efficiency. The average technician, if he's doing service calls during an 8-hour day, is only working on someone's AC for about 4 hours. There's 4 hours where they're not working on anything. They're driving, they're making phone calls, they're making follow-up calls to customers, doing all of these random things. The average company has about 50% available. So what is 50% of the available hours? If there's 2,000 hours in a year, if that's 40 hours a week, 4 weeks a month, half of that is only 1,000 hours. So what happens if I divide that $200,000 overhead by 2,000, and then I take that $200,000 overhead and divide it by the actual hours available, which is 1,000, the number goes up a lot. Okay, you guys catching what I'm saying here? Okay, it's about as deep as I can get in a webinar. And like CJ said, all of you will have availability to book a 30-minute session. If you have any deep diving questions, I'm going to be available. You're also going to get my pricing tool in the email, so watch out for that. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to divide by the available hours. Now, I want to show you something. I have an example here. And let's say all your costs were $240,000. Okay. I put on the screen, you should be able to see it, is, do you see the 240,000 divided by 1,000 hours available? That would give you about $240 an hour break even. Okay. Now there's 3 examples on the screen. I have the same overhead, the 240K, which is just an example, divided by 1,000 hours. I have it divided by 1,500 hours, and I have it divided by 2,000 hours. Do you guys see how much of a difference your hourly rate comes out to? So if you divide by 2,000 hours, that will show that your company is spending $120 an hour just to keep the lights on. When in reality, if you divide it by the actual number of hours, 1,000, you're actually spending $240 an hour to break even. If you do that math wrong, you will be losing a lot of money. So it's very important to know that you have to price the correct way. Okay. Now, if you're watching this and you're saying, okay, well, I charge $240 an hour now. Okay, how many people in the chat's prices look anything remotely like this? I'm curious to know. Are you lower than 160 an hour? Are you higher than 240 an hour? Remember, this example here is with $240,000 of overhead. It's an example, okay? This is only break even. This is not making one red penny. A profit margin has to be added to this. Okay, so Travis says his is higher. Someone says they're at 128. Someone says they're at 251. Someone says they're at 135. After this webinar, I want you to add up all of your overhead, every single bill that you have, and I want you to divide it by 1,000 or 1,500. Okay, right? Some companies are more efficient than others. If you have fully stocked trucks, then you're not driving around wasting time. Remember, if you don't keep inventory on your truck, and your technicians have to drive to the supply house on every call, or they don't have the right tools, so it takes them forever to vacuum, you have less hours available. You have to charge way more. Now you're forcing yourself to get undercut. So do you see where efficiency comes into play? All right. So that would be your homework after this webinar. If you're going to meet me for 30 minutes, I would say, hey, why don't you have that available when you meet me? Okay. All right, so you have to add a profit margin to that. You find your break even on labor, we're talking about labor, and you use a divisor, right? I like to have a 0.5 divisor. Every one of you is different, okay? This is an example. So if I take this 240K overhead and divide it by 1,000 hours, I get a $240 an hour break even. If I divide that by 0.5, which I actually don't have on my screen, it's going to give me the actual hourly price that I need to charge. Okay. So you see this up here, I have 160 divided by 0.5, which would make the actual labor rate 320. Okay. So you guys see that? All right. If you guys are understanding, put a thumbs up in the chat. All right. I know we're going through this a little quickly, and I don't expect you to necessarily figure all your costs out in this webinar. This is to help you understand what is supposed to go on in a company. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about this really quickly. So in my company, I got a lot of thumbs up. Okay. That's really good. In my company, we charge a premium. Okay. So here's the issue. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about fear, overwhelm, procrastination, and overthinking. I charge a premium. There are a lot of companies that are a lot less than us. So how do you justify, how do you get your price, right? Because the one thing to say, okay, oh, boom, I have to charge 500 an hour. I have to charge 400 an hour. And then a guy comes behind you and he's charging $20 an hour. How do you keep them from undercutting you? What you have to do is you have to learn to speak a different language to customers. All right. If you're a one-man show, it should be very, very simple. If you have technicians, you're going to have a meeting and you're going to have to teach your technicians or your salespeople how to speak a different language. And we're not talking about English, Spanish, German, Italian, okay? We're talking about how to speak the language of value, right? What does that mean? Okay, so I go to a house, I'm 3 times more than the other person. Homeowner says, oh my gosh, my uncle could do this for $50. And the last company that I used to use did this for $100 and you're $500. If they're saying that, then you haven't communicated the value. And not communicating the value looks something like this. Hey, Mr. CJ, we just found out that the motor is broken. It's going to be $1,500. Do you want to do it? No, I think I'll wait. Okay. That's not communicating the value. Okay. Communicating the value says, hey, Mr. CJ, good news. We found out that your motor was bad. What happens is his motor was really old and then it started to seize up. And then once it seized up, it made the compressor overheat. Good news, the compressor's not bad. I went ahead and checked that out for you. The compressor's totally fine. Now, we don't use aftermarket parts. We only do factory parts because we want to make sure your machine works as manufacturer intended. We're really careful on that. So we take a lot of details and you guys get it. So I lead with value, 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 value. Then I give them the price, okay? Now, if he has a shock value and he says, wow, I thought it would be a lot less. Some companies are doing this for 500. You say, yeah, well, I'm not sure what parts they're using. A lot of companies use aftermarket parts and sometimes used parts, but, we're really careful to do this. And we have a 1-year warranty and blah, blah, blah. If you don't add the value, you will always be undercut. Always. And one way to know that you're not communicating value is if you're always hearing price objections from your customers. All of us are going to hear price objections. Everyone is, especially in this economic environment. But if you're hearing it all the time, you have to change the way you speak. Okay, so we have to speak the language of value instead of the language of price. Okay, what do homeowners actually value? Let's think about this. Okay, actual homeowners value safety. Okay, if a husband is at work and the wife is at home by herself, what does she value? Who's coming to my house? Okay. Do you have a uniform? Is it tucked in? Is your truck wrapped? Do you look safe? Do you look dangerous? Okay. Homeowners will pay more for safety. They'll pay more for peace of mind. High-end customers actually will pay more money to get some of their time back. Okay. Right. Low-end customers will pay a little bit of money to exchange a lot of their time. High-end customers will pay a lot of money to get some of their time back. So do you have a no cancellation policy? Are you always on time? Will you do it quickly? Sometimes selling speed commands a higher price. Okay, am I rearranging the furniture in your mind here, guys? Put the thumbs up if you're enjoying this. Let me know that you're flowing with me here, okay? All right, so throw some questions in the chat. I want to hear where is your brain exploding? Is your brain saying, okay, I don't understand it? Guys, pricing is based on cost and cost alone. And I want to throw an example your way here. Let's say you're trying to grow your business. Everyone in the chat here wants to grow their business, okay? And I'll say this and then we'll move on. I think CJ will have something here. I think he has a Q&A session or he wants to show something. So imagine you growing your business. You're underpriced and your business is growing. What happens if you're losing money and then your business grows? You lose money faster. Okay, so if you lose money as a one-man show and then you hire a technician, now you're losing money twice the speed. Then you get 4 technicians, now you're losing money at 4 times the speed. So you have to set your prices according to the proper technique. It is the fastest way to grow your business. All right.
Michael, you mentioned something just now about the current economic landscape. Would you mind shedding a little bit of light on that and like maybe how it's translating into how you run your businesses?
Yeah, so basically, a lot of us know that equipment costs have went through the roof. Okay, right behind me is a jug of 454B. Okay, 454B is insanely expensive. In some places, it's $1,500 a jug, sometimes $3,000 a jug. The manufacturers have went through the roof. Grocery prices have went through the roof, which means not only are our prices higher, but homeowners are making less money because their costs are higher, but they didn't get a raise. Okay. So what's happening is it's pushing down the prices. It's pushing people to find as many discounts as they can. So if you think it was hard to compete then, it's definitely hard to compete now. So you must learn how to communicate the value to the homeowner. If you don't, you will be left in the dust and you will go out of business really quickly.
I love that. So I appreciate all of that today, and I think you bring some incredible insight and some incredible pricing expertise. So I want to encourage everybody to go ahead and reach out to Michael. And again, I'll post the links in the chat. But I wanted to get a little bit into how Breezy helps HVAC, plumbing, electrical contractors present really effective pricing tools while they're in the home, and how we can help kind of supplement what Michael is talking about today and really put it into practice. So I wanted to just share a couple things about the Breezy app. So let me back up a couple slides here. So we enable contractors to import their price book, simple, fast, effective. Whether you're working with a company like the New Flat Rate to kind of build your price book, or you schedule that demo with Michael and work with him, we can import all of your pricing with just a click. So that's very powerful. Easy bulk pricing updates. So if your labor rate changes or your supplier changes, supplier cost changes, you can go in and dynamically change all of that very simply through kind of this visual dashboard that we provide. Tiered pricing features. So this is really cool. So if you have a club membership, you can configure your pricing one way versus maybe an after hours call. You could have different pricing and add-ons as well. So Michael, how do you feel about kind of this tiered pricing feature?
I love it. I love it because you having, okay, I mentioned FRAP, right? The different pricing strategies. Having different customer pricing. My friend Chris Plunkett, he's on here. You want to have different prices, okay? You want to have finance price. You want to have club price. You want to have repair price. You want to have replacement price. The more you can spread your pricing out to have a menu of different options, the more chance you're going to have a homeowner pick one, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and another cool thing, I'll jump forward real quick just because you touched on it. Being able to build price options directly inside the app while you're in the home. So we know that one of the biggest kind of falling through the cracks moment is you've done your inspection, you have to go back out to the truck and put together a presentation, and then by that time, the kids are hungry, and the homeowner meets you at the door and just says, "Hey, can you email that estimate to me?" And then you've lost them. So it's really powerful to be able to just configure this directly in the app and present the options to the homeowner. You can also add photos from your inspection to create a really compelling estimate and help them understand exactly what you found, the problems that you diagnosed, and the solutions that you're presenting. And first of all, you talk about finding your break-even point, right? So if I realize that my current pricing is just way below what it should be, what's the best way to raise prices without shocking or losing customers? Or is that kind of just a myth that we kind of build in our head?
It's a myth. So it's multi-layered. Okay, number one, short answer, it's a myth. Okay, because you are the only one that just realized your price was too low. Your homeowners know that your price is too low. Believe me, they know the going rate. So you're not surprising them when you raise the price. It's just like, oh man, okay, man, he finally figured it out, right? And I'm not speaking from something I learned from a book. I raised my price from $50 an hour to $400 an hour in 1 week. Okay, nobody batted an eye, right? Because they already knew. They're just like, oh man, he figured it out. Okay, so that's the short answer. The middle answer is, if you're nervous because, hey, this is your business, this is your livelihood, just put one toe in the water, right? You don't have to just change it immediately. I mean, if I'm your business consultant, I'm going to tell you to change it immediately. But if you're so scared, 1 out of every 4 customers, just do it 1 out of every 4. Okay. Or maybe change it for the new customers, or maybe change it for the customers you don't like, right? Just test it out so that you can see firsthand that nobody's blinking an eye.
Like, did you talk about your book at all?
I didn't talk about the book. We just had a good Q&A. If you are registered for this webinar, you will get the email to the book launch and to that special masterclass. Okay. September 8th, 6 p.m. Eastern. You see all the times there. Take a screenshot, but you'll get that link in the email.
You want to have everybody just if they're interested, just type book into the chat.
Yes, please do that. Yeah, there is an audio. There will be an audio format. It'll be on Amazon.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to getting your book. I definitely want to get on the pre-sale list.
Awesome. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I've been working on it for a while.
For sure. Well, I appreciate your time. Again, like, you're a very busy man. You got so much going on, and it's great that you take some time to, offer this free content and help our audience kind of understand how to better price their products and services. And for everybody on the call today, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I know it's still very hot in a lot of places in the country, so taking time out of your schedule, taking time out of your business to join us, always appreciated. And you've taken the first step in investing in yourself to grow your business. So I really appreciate you, Michael. I appreciate all of you on the call, and can't wait to see everybody on the next one.
Awesome. See you later.
All right, guys. So next call, going to be with Michelle LaFrance of the Ductless Directory, teaching you how to stand up against private equity, and teaching you how to use kind of some new Google AI features to rank on search. So I can't wait to see you on the next one. All right, guys. We'll see you.